The Cold War. When a nation interacts with other parts of the world, it needs a foreign policy, a set of guidelines and goals that tells the nation how to deal with other countries. After World War II, the United States took a leading role in world affairs. The two superpowers. World War II destroyed cities and land in Europe and Japan. Meanwhile, the United States became stronger. It had built up its military forces during the war. Now it wanted other countries to buy American products. The United States became what we now call a superpower. The Soviet Union, also called the USSR, wanted to build up its power to protect itself. To do that, it took charge of governments in other countries. The Soviet Union promoted communism in those countries. The Cold War begins. The two great nations of the United States and the Soviet Union began to compete for power in a long struggle known as the Cold War. It was called cold because the two nations never fought or attacked each other. They showed they were enemies by what they said about each other and by the countries and causes they chose to help. The United States and 11 other countries founded the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, also called NATO or the West. The Soviet Union formed the Warsaw Pact, an alliance of communist nations. The wars in Korea and Vietnam. The United States and the Soviet Union took the Cold War to Asia. America wanted to stop the growth of communism there. In 1950, a conflict began in the divided country of Korea when the communist North invaded the South. The Soviets supported North Korea and NATO sent forces to defend South Korea. But neighboring China was also communist and it joined the side of North Korea. The Chinese forces pushed NATO forces back. North and South Korea signed a truce in 1953, with neither side winning the war. Vietnam was also divided into North and South. North Vietnam was supported by the Soviet Union and China, while South Vietnam was supported by the United States. In South Vietnam, rebel forces called the Viet Cong fought their own government with support from the Communist North. The United States sent soldiers to help South Vietnam's army. From 1960 to 1968, the war grew. The number of United States soldiers in South Vietnam eventually reached 500,000. They never invaded North Vietnam, but they bombed it. In the South, there were years of battles, and many American soldiers were killed before the United States withdrew from the war. The end of the Cold War. By the 1980s, many people were unhappy living under communism. They voted against communist governments. Germany reunited its communist and non-communist parts into one nation. In 1991, the Soviet Union fell apart as countries left it. Russia is still strong and still a communist country. Today, America and Russia continue to clash. Understanding how the United States has dealt with foreign policy in the past will help you understand why things are the way they are now. This will help give you insight when taking the GED Social Studies exam. Keep this in mind and you'll do great. Happy